All right, so now we're going to be talking about kinetic energy. All right, so before we talked about potential energy, remember that has to do everything with position, like how high you are, or the arrangement of whatever you're looking at. Now we're going to talk about kinetic energy. Kinetic energy has everything to do with motion, okay? So remember there's all those different types of kinetic energy. There's thermal energy, and there's radiant energy, and there's we had thermal, and then you have mechanical energy. All of those energies have something to do with something is moving. Maybe the wave is moving. Maybe the electrons are moving. Remember we talked about electrical energy, okay? So now we're going to be talking about kinetic energy. So make sure you get this down. It's an object that's moving, has energy. This is what I want you to remember more than anything else. It is the energy emotion. I'm not really concerned with you knowing this bottom part, but you do need to know that it's the energy emotion. Okay, so go ahead and at least write that down. Okay, sorry, I just realized I was not sharing my screen. So this is kinetic energy, energy of motion. That's what I want you to get down. Anything that is moving has kinetic energy. All right, so now that you have down kinetic energy, energy of motion, again, just to emphasize, remember there's a lot of different types of energy that fall under kinetic energy. We talked about electrical energy, those are moving electrons. We talked about sound energy, those are moving waves. We talked about vibration, yes, we talked about thermal energy, okay, those particles, remember when they move very, very fast, that means it's hot, and if they move very, it's cold. Very slow, that means it's cold. Excellent. All right, so now let's go to the next slide. All right, kinetic energy. It depends on two different things. One is the object's mass, okay? And the other thing is the object's speed, okay? So when we get ready to do the equation, that's exactly what's going to be an equation, mass and speed, okay? And when we say speed, we know we really mean velocity, okay? So kinetic energy depends on mass and speed. Kinetic energy depends on mass and speed, okay? Mass and speed. And when I say right here that kinetic energy is directly proportional to mass, that's just a fancy way of saying if one goes up, the other one goes up as well, okay? So in other words, if I'm looking at 4 or 5 different things, okay, whichever one is the heaviest or has the most mass or takes up the most space, that's the one that will have the most kinetic energy, okay? That's the one that would have the most kinetic energy, all right? And then the speed, this one is directly proportional to the square of the object speed, and I'll explain in just a second what that means, okay? So right now you should have kinetic energy depends on mass and speed. And if you want to, you can make a note that if you kinetic energy increases as mass increases. Just, or you could just say if mass, you could draw up arrow, mass goes up, KE goes up, okay? All right, so that is kinetic energy. That's what it depends on. So now that we know what it depends on, let's look at what the formula is for kinetic energy. All right, kinetic energy. EK, Leo, can you tell us again what E stands for?
Energy.
Yes, energy. And then this little k just means kinetic. So this is kinetic energy, okay? Remember earlier we had E and we had the little p, and that was potential energy. So kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 times mass times velocity squared. So this part is together, okay? This part right here, velocity squared. And we'll talk about what that means or what that looks like. All right, so that's velocity squared. All right, and then that 1/2, what I would like for us to do when we're doing these calculations, instead of saying 1/2, I would love if we just said 0.5, okay? Because that keeps us from having to type in 1 divided by 2, okay? That keeps us from having to type in 1 divided by 2. All right, and my thing just froze.
Wait, why is there a square?
I'm going to show you exactly how that works. Okay. All right. So, except for my thing just. All right. So instead of saying again 1/2, we're going to say 0.5. Okay. So let's talk about what this means if we square. Is it frozen for you guys? Because I can't do anything. Can you guys
I
still?
think so.
Is it frozen? I
Yeah,
haven't changed the slide, but I cannot do anything. Let me see if I can. One second. I love that I'm recording and it's frozen. This is so awesome. All right, let's close this. Let's see. Ah, there we go. All right, I think I got it back working. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Yes, I was just saying, instead of saying 1/2, we can just say, ooh, I'm so sorry. We can say 0.5, and then we would multiply that by the mass, and then we would multiply that by v squared. Now, v is the velocity, so the velocity or the speed, remember. Can somebody tell me what it means if something is squared? Yes, multiply by itself. Now you have to be very careful, okay? V squared means whatever number you put in, you multiply it by itself. So if I say 3 squared, okay, that's the same thing as saying 3 times 3, okay? Not 3 times 2. Or if I say 4 squared, that's the same thing as saying 4 times 4, okay? Not 4 times 2, okay? Not times 2, times itself, okay? All right. Oh.
The M is mass.
M is mass, that is correct, okay? All right, so let's clear, can I clear this? Am I writing?
We need to write it.
If you know this, you don't have to write it.
No, I want to write it.
You want to write it? Okay. Anything I write, you should write. All right, yes. So I was just saying the 0.5, you can keep writing, it's fine. The 0.5, that's the 1/2, times M times V squared, which is just V times V, okay? You would just put the same number in twice, okay? All right, got this down, Leo?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here we go. Here is a practice problem, okay? It says a 1,200 kilogram automobile or car is traveling at a velocity of 100 meters per second northwest. What is the kinetic energy of the automobile? All right, so remember this EK and this KE, these are the same thing. So that's equal to 0.5, that's the same thing as the 1/2. Are you writing this down? Okay, 0.5, which is the same thing as my 1/2, times the mass times the velocity squared. So 1,200 kg, is that the mass or the velocity? Yeah. That is the mass. Thank you, Anaya. This is mass because it ends in kg. Okay, so we're going to plug that number in here. And then this 100, we're going to plug in here. Now you can do it one of two ways. You can either, if you know where the square button is on your calculator, you can use it on your square button. If you don't, you can just say 100 times 100. So I'm going to put the answer up. I want you to make sure, I think you guys know where to plug in the numbers, but I want you to make sure that when you calculate it, you get the same thing I did, okay? So when I plugged in my numbers, I put in 1,200 here, and I put in 100, and then this is what I got. This is 6 million joules. That's a lot of joules, but it's a really big car and it's going pretty fast, okay? So let's take a second. Make sure when you put this in your calculator that you got 6,000,000. So that's 6 zeros behind the number 6, okay? And again, you can put in a couple of different ways, okay? You should be able to get the same answer if you say, for example, 0.5 times 1200 times, you can either say,
100 times 100.
yes, you can say 100 times 100, Leo. You absolutely can. Or if you know how to use the square button, you could also say 100 squared. But either way, you should get the same answer. Okay?
Look,
I'm sorry? You said? All right, so it looks like everybody got the right answer. So let's try one or two on our own. And then I'm going to open up this quiz, okay? And you'll have about 30 minutes to work on it. So let's look at this next one. You got a bicycle with a mass of 14 kilograms traveling at a velocity of 3 meters per second east. How much kinetic energy does it have? So you can private chat me. I'll walk around in the classroom and see what answers you got as well. You guys can private chat me your answer. Let's see if you get the right answer, okay? All right, so this is what you should have had. You got 0.5. The mass was 14 kilograms, so you should have plugged that in. Your velocity was 3. Don't forget to square that. So you should have had 0.5 times 14 times, what's this last number going to be? Times 9. Excellent, okay? So that's what you make sure you do not forget to square. All right, one more, not this
the
one
answer
though.
is 63.
I'm sorry. Yes, it was.
Oh,
All right, here's the last one, and then I'm opening up the quiz. All right, you serve a volleyball with a mass of 2.1 kilograms. The ball leaves your hand with a speed of 30 meters per second because you're an excellent volleyball player. Please tell me what the kinetic energy is for that one. All right, what'd you say?
We have to square the velocity when we're doing the equation.
Correct. So, let me see what this last person, oops. Let me see what this person put. I'll get it right in a second. Kevin, Sarah, Joelle, Carla, good. Yes. All right. So when you plug this in, this is what you should have got for this last one. And then the quiz is open for those of you, for everybody else. All right. So 0.5 times the mass. We know that 2.1 is our mass because it ends in kilograms. So 0.5 times 2.1 times, if you are struggling with the velocity with squaring it, like if you can't find your square button, just type it twice. So times 30 times 30, okay? If you can't get to your square button or you keep like typing something funky, just say 0.5 times 2.1 times 30 times 30. And once you do that, you should get
945.
That's right, 945 joules. All right, that quiz is open. You still got 25 minutes. I don't think it'll take you that long. Remember those first couple of questions, it's like you click whichever one. If it says which has the most kinetic energy, you click whatever. And I tried to color code it on this one, okay? Any questions? All right, I'm gonna leave this sample problem up for you to look at while you're working.
Can you repeat what you said before that?
You mean about the using the third, like not using the square button, or what you're working on?
Well, you said something about the velocity or something like that.
Yes, so the velocity, you know, velocity always ends in meters per second. So for instance, right here, you had your 0.5, that's your half. Okay, and then you had your 2.1 kilograms, that's your mass. And then for your velocity squared, if you're having problem with the square part, you can just do this twice. So you could say times 30 and then times 30 again. Does that make sense? Because 30 squared just means 30 times 30. That's what that means. Does that make sense? Maybe, okay.
The one I was talking about is the one that says, you know how you say click the one with the most velocity?
I'm just saying like the questions where, like the one on the first quiz. So it's just saying, it's just telling you to click the number and I color code them so they're highlighted. That's all. All right. All right, that's what you guys are working on.